Hey everyone, welcome to Soulfish. I am really glad you're here. Welcome back, and if you're new, please subscribe to the channel and get more tidbits of awesome Soulfish goodness. For today, it's been a theme that I want to share with you this week and see if it's resonating with you. And it's the idea of harmonizing and transmutation, right? So you say to yourself, well, that seems a little bit in contrast, but it's really not, and here's why. So harmonizing, let's think about that for a minute. When you're harmonizing with the energy around you, with the energy flow, okay? I'm not talking about mob mentality. We're always talking about in our bestest selves, right? So when you're in this energy and you're feeling this stuff, and you may or may not feel it, which I guess is pretty irrelevant at this point, but when you're walking through your day, consciously or not, energetically, you are receiving information and you are putting out information. And so that is a constant vibe in and vibe out, like a breath, right? Pulsing. So understand that you yourself are kind of putting out little energy waves. Like, you know, you see my hands? That's the miniature representation of an energy wave. But that's what you're doing, right? So, you know, some hikers were coming up on me, and I was a little close to the path there. There was a second path I hadn't seen yet. Oops. Oh, anyway, this idea of harmonizing, right? So you're vibing this space. You feel me? So whether you're conscious or not, you are putting out this energy, right? In these miniature energy waves. And so when you're harmonizing with the energy around you, you're not trying to change anything. You're trying to merge with it. You're trying to be in parallel with it. In some cases, merge, ride with, parallel to. You're not trying to change the course of or anything like that. So that's a harmonizing aspect. And that's really important, particularly today, particularly this year, as things are shifting. To be able to harmonize means to adapt in a conscious, aware way, okay? Now, transmutation, what happens when you're transmuting? Can you be transmuting at the same time you're harmonizing? Think about that. So transmutation is about your ability to change one element into another, to change something from one state, right, into another. So how can you both be in the process of change and changing the state of something and harmonizing with it at the same time? It seems contradictory. And so this week in theming, which I wanted to share with you, this has been a lot of the dialogue this week of how, because in that place, when you're able to do that, in that place is where you'll find your peace. In that place is when you are able to merge your higher self with your physical self, which is through will and spirit. It's through the merge of your will, which is you putting all of your stuff in alignment, your mind, body, and then through your will, through your spirit, right? So this is the process. And this week and this year is going to be theming that way a lot of this change in that way, a lot of this transmutation versus harmonizing. That's two ways to look at it. Some things you have to change and not harmonize with. That's the verses, right? But then that's in contradiction to harmonizing, right? Because you're putting it's like saying, I'm going to fight for peace. You can't fight for peace. I can't be in harmonizing and yet be in conflict or resistance to that. That's why shielding doesn't work. And I've got a really great video I'm working on for you guys on that, on why the real reason shielding doesn't work. This is for my empath and highly sensitive friends out there. This is a real teaching, something that you can use that works. And so I'm really excited to be sharing that with you. So it brings us back to the concept of harmonizing and transmutation. So here's what transmutation is. You have two ways to look at it. You can look at it as an outside effect, like somehow I'm imposing my will on my environment, okay? That's one way to look at that. That's not the transmutation stuff I'm talking about right now. What I'm talking about is the ability for you to receive in, to receive in a certain type of stimulus, let's say negative stuff, right? Negative circumstances, anything, positive circumstances too, and to be able to use those in the right way as well, right? That energy, it's all energy. So circumstances in the physical obviously are kind of like signs, representations of what's happening energetically in some ways, right? So through this process of transmutation, what I'm talking about is you being able to take in the stimulus of whatever it is and it not affect you in a way where you're unconscious, where you are reacting out of in a poisonous way, poisonous to yourself and others, right? And I'm always concerned mostly about you, yourself, not everybody else, because the secret here is that if we all really learn that if we fix ourselves, if we really focus in ourselves, if every day my goal is just to be, 1 point less of an asshole than I was the day before. That's my goal spiritually. And so every day I think to myself when something happens, oh, that was a lesson. Like today, I had a great spiritual lesson this morning. There's a span from where we live to get to school, and I used to be a little frustrated, I gotta admit, when I'm driving in the mornings or whatever, thinking that, hey, we could drive a little faster than the speed limit, you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of silly, it's just kind of how I am. I kind of feel like, I'd like to be moving with the energy here, and in where I live, the energy moves a little faster than what these cats are driving at or whatever. So I don't know, maybe that's justification, who knows? But the concept today was I need to be appreciative of that. I learned today in a spiritual lesson, both on the way there and coming back, 2 different people who decided to drive about half the speed limit. And I really appreciate that because we live in a great place and I understand that, but holy moly, man, it really made me think, saying, hey, I need to use this as an example to say, when I'm behind those folks who are following the speed limit, I need to be grateful for them and remember these 2 guys from today. So, lessons come in all shapes, sizes, and it's up to you to see the signs. It's up to you to make something cool from it, like to say, hey, my frustration is stupid. I know my driving frustration is stupid. In fact, it's so stupid that my family makes fun of it. So, it's something I'm working on, but, we're all in progress, right? We're all in progress. Okay, so if I'm using this example this morning, this is a part of transmutation. So what I tried to do is I said, hey, you're being silly here, but I can't, you're in that energy state of like, gosh, come on, you guys, right? So what was cool though, in putting myself in that perspective and laughing about it, helped to change everything for me. And so in driving back, following behind the second, it did take me twice. Spirit gave me twice to learn it. The way up, wasn't learning that lesson, but on the way back I did, and it was cool. And that's what I mean by transmutation, is how does something affect you? And I'm not trying to be in opposition to it. What I'm trying to do is understand why there is resistance or opposition to it and change something in me so that I then can harmonize in a more, I'm gonna say, proper way with what the truth is of happening around me, and not whatever I was thinking it was, or putting myself out there like, come on, there's lots to do in life today. We could be speeding down the road a little faster, right? You get what I'm saying, right? That energy is what you have to transmute. That kind of stuff where it puts you not in your bestest state, and then keep in mind that, particularly me, I'm broadcasting out this kind of anxious energy. I'm sure that's not helping the guy driving in front of me. And I'm sure, whoever's around behind me too, I'm sure they're feeling this kind of wash of stuff going, gosh, man, chill out, right? So I'm saying that to you is that, so if you transmute it, now if like I did this morning, if I transmute that, then all of a sudden they're feeling better in front and they're feeling better in behind. But guess what? Most importantly, I'm feeling better because, if you don't affect that change in you, nobody is benefited. I love benefiting everyone else. That's the rising of the collective conscious is all of our job here, right? Which means the only way we can do that is not me saying, hey, you over there, go do something. It's me living it and me trying to grow, and me sharing what I'm learning and techniques with you guys so that you try and learn and grow. And think about that. If we all come up a point this year, holy moly. I mean, that's got to make at least all the places we live in just a touch better, right? Like people feel a touch better. There'll be, much better things going on from that space, right? Instead of it being more of, let's just take it and we get through this life, and we either distract ourselves or unplug or disengage or anesthetize ourselves or whatever it is, right? Just to get through it. What if we all wake up and say, hey man, wow, we got some work to do and it's not going to be fun, but at least we're doing it together. So we're all in it together, and let's just work on ourselves. And I know, I've seen it. I'm just telling you guys, like these, if you just change yourself, it's so funny, we want to hide from that. It's hurtful when you look at yourself and say, God, that's really a crummy part of me. Wow, I really don't I wouldn't like that, seeing that in anyone, and that it's in me makes it even worse, So you feel that way, and so you try not to, you're like, I don't want to touch that. But think about it. If you're facing it, and you're able to say, why? Why is that such a big deal? What's up with me on that? What's going on there, right? And you just keep, and you're repetitive at it, and patient, because these things take time, and they've built a lot of, scar tissue in you, right? So if you take a little time, you can transmute that, you can understand it, and that's how you transmute the past, so that you dispel it. So, people talk about getting to a place of comfortableness with their baggage. I'm a big believer in that you don't have to have any way back baggage. A lot of folks get caught up in, why do you have the baggage? Yes, it's interesting, and yes, it could give you insight maybe, but how much of that is in the solution? I don't know. I don't know how much of that knowledge helps with the solution. I mean, I guess that's not being unfair. I mean, I can understand the more information you have, I guess that's better, but there's a point where, I guess this is the right way to say it, there's a point where as much backstory as there is, it still exists in me. Do you see what I'm saying? And so if that -3 is in me, and everywhere I go in the energy stream I walk in around this planet, I'm attracting all the other -3s to come to me, in whatever thing to trigger me, ultimately I got to do something about that. The story isn't necessarily going to help me to solve it. In other words, action, not necessarily story, right? There's a saying, right? Knowledge on ice. Oh, sorry. There's a saying that is, ignorance on fire is better than knowledge on ice, right? In other words, action. Like sometimes there is no perfect plan. You just got to do. You just got to do and figure it out. And sometimes you don't know when you start something how to do it. And sometimes you don't know what the right solution's gonna be. And so you have to try a couple of different solutions. And we're taught some reason that we should come up with one solution and try it, and if it fails, you failed, and you should try something completely different. That's silly, particularly for people who are experiential. You got to try some things and say, oh, that was good, and oh, that was not so good, and then and then you're able to know when you experience other stuff, you can kind of categorize things easier and say, oh, that's kind of like that. I don't need to put my time there. I want to put my time over here where stuff I know I will love to do or whatever. This is about you raising your vibe. You want to do things that help to raise your vibe. It's not for you to ignore being sad, or we're trying to eradicate sadness, depression, or bad feelings, because you need those for many reasons, which is a whole nother discussion, right? You need those. So this is about how can you stay and maintain a consistent vibe? How do when you're slapped with daily stuff, that you don't sink in, that you don't get worn down kind of like water on a rock, right? You don't want to be that guy. So what we're doing is learning. What we're doing is applying techniques that help you right now in the moment feel better. Right now in the moment to be able to take what's happening to you and transmute that so that you're in harmony with what's going on around you. And that's a beautiful thing. Much love, and until next time.